When I discovered that he had built a whole new world with someone else, my rocket regained its compass and I found a new direction. Even if it meant self immolating, I would destroy his planet and any moon that might be orbiting it. I transferred my savings into my checkings, bought some fuel, and propelled out of the black and into the fluorescent light of my cell phone to try to track his orbital movements. Jake's Instagram stories suggested that he was heading towards Mars. He was trying to shop for ceramic tiles for his new kitchen. Suddenly, I developed an academic interest for the history of pottery and decided to make a little research trip. I sent Cassie a text with a red faced emoji. From afar, Mars shines an iconic and undividable red. The walls of Mars were painted centuries ago by a lonesome painter who used the same leftover crimson hue that adorns the halls of tyrants and emperors on Earth. Since then, on the last month of their year, Martians add another coat of the same shade. Perfect for vulgar display, the planet's red reveals its secrets a bit too easily, like a soldier who wears a uniform with condecorations that speak for themselves. The legibility of Mars's iconography scared me, but it also allured me. It seemed dauntingly unmalleable, but also predictable and stable. After circling the planet for a few days, my anger superseded my common sense, and I decided it was time to land. As I stepped outside my ship, a sheet of warm saran wrapped itself over my face, choking me with my own parched breath, fastening itself behind my skull. I pulled it from behind and held it in my hands, where it vanished into a hologram with a message. You have been successfully quarantined. Welcome to Mars. I bought a sleek motorcycle with a matte helmet to match and rode for hours through the desert, parting the sand in two and leaving a cloud of dust everywhere I went. When I exhausted my thighs, I pulled over at a restaurant, but I was turned away at the door because I left a trail of soot and sand behind me. My clothes were solid, caked in with intergalactic debris. The molars on the left side of my mouth ached. I found a room and took a shower. I was flushed with wrath and scavenging for vengeance, looking for the men who wronged me. I drove around the city every night hoping to run them over in a bout of road rage, knowing that the sand would mask their blood. I wanted to catch them holding hands while they waited for the light, so I could see the shame in their faces when they saw me. I walked through the streets I knew he would roam. I lounged in the parks he loved the most, and I went to the parties where I thought he would show. But all I ever saw was the ghost of his face that lived online and in my mind. On a particularly suffocating and humid night, I parked my bike outside a bar and stood there listening to the silence. My fingers were still sticky from drinking the local potions, famous for unleashing one's manic energies. I tasted the cherry on my fingertips. The parking lot was completely dark, but I could see the lights of passing traffic on the road. I saw the embers of a cigarette approaching me in the dark. A figure was saying something in a foreign language, but I couldn't make the meaning of his sentences, so I confronted each word he uttered as pure sound. The melodic cadence of his speech and the Martian heat lulled me into an ecstatic torpor, and right when his verbal composition reached a crescendo, the drinks I had taken erupted inside of me. We got on my bike and rode towards the city. Raising his copper axe and my tin sword in the air, we went downtown and assumed our attack poses. But when I tried to do something, the world around me became ungraspable, and I saw myself merely waving my weapon in the air. The drunken crowd started running from my aimless anger, but quickly they realized that the gestures were futile. A guy even threw a can of beer at me. We went back to my room, but the moons refused to rise that night. I woke up and walked to the nearest restaurant to get us some coffee and potions. There was a desert storm on the horizon, and all I could see were the lights of the city's office buildings. The restaurant was inside a refurbished bank with massive windows, so that the counters had the same insolence of corporate surfaces, but the bathrooms were inside beautiful vaults with grave and heavy doors. I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu and got a serving of the local bean-like grains in a bowl of vegetable stock. There was a layer of sand on my food. I looked out the window and saw them, not holding hands like I had hoped, and not even alone, but surrounded by his group of friends. I reached inside my jacket and gripped my pocket knife. I lightly ran my fingers over the blade. This was my chance, perhaps my only chance, but all I could do was sit there and paint an impressionist canvas in my head, detailing the events of my attack with soft edges and pastels, instead of running after them. The anger inside me wouldn't follow my commands to arrange itself to form a shooting arrow or any kind of prickly weapon that could pierce through his flesh. The sand had blunted the blade of my knife, and I cut my finger with it. I watched as they walked out of my sight. My teeth started pulsating in pain. I ran out the door and went to my apartment. When I arrived, I saw a bulky man standing outside my door. Before I could make him out, he grabbed my jacket and shoved me against the wall. He punched me in the face and forced his hand inside my mouth. I bit him, but my teeth didn't even make a dent on his thick and rubbery skin. I thought he was going to choke me, but instead of going for my throat, I felt his fingers move around like tentacles before he reached and pulled something out of my molar. He held out a small piece of saran wrap, which quickly solidified into a small cube. The cube projected a grainy image against the wall. It was an unflattering picture of my face, which appeared above a list of minute and useless data, like the amount of macronutrients I consumed every day, or my chemical and hormonal imbalances. I knew it, he said. What? I replied with a sore jaw. You're gonna have to come with me. You can't stay on Mars. I was taken to a police station where a hologram explained to me in plain English that my presence and the weakness of my bearings were disrupting the Martian ecosystem. The planet is not actually usually this barren, it said. Since I arrived, flowers were dying, crops were turning to sand, and the paint on the planet's walls was chipping away. They would send my belongings to my address on Earth. I wondered if Cassie would be home to wait for the delivery. I was taken to a waiting room that looked a lot like the departures area at JFK Airport. I sat next to a guy who was fidgeting with his feet and picking at his teeth. Did they also kick you out? He asked. Yeah, they did. Where did you get deported? My body temperature is too cold for Mars. They say it's for my health, that the planet would become too hot for me to inhabit. But honestly, I don't even know why this is happening to me. I don't know why I can't stay warm. I smiled at him and put my headphones on.